Hey, Teacher Thoughts here, coming at you with another update. So what we're going to do now is we're going to do a gentle repotting of our Firefly Petunia, and then I'm going to show you some other things that you can do to get them to look bushy again and start to regrowing. So in the last video I went through and I cut off all of the old seed pods that were inhibiting the blossom production. So those are now gone and out of the way. And I just unpotted this a few moments ago to take a look at it. And I think we've got to be real careful with these Firefly Petunias. Their root system don't look quite as advanced or strong as I might want in one of my plants. So I do have to be very careful not to break the root ball. So what we're going to do is we're going to use a few things to get this up and running. The first thing we're going to use is a large container. So here in northern Idaho, we do get a lot of high temperatures, and I am having to water my Firefly Petunia twice a day. And I'd like to have it last all through the day, or if I miss a watering, then it can be fine for 2 days. So in order to do that, I need a larger soil volume. So what I have here is, I think it's about a 2-gallon container. This is a recycled one. I did purchase some plants in it and used it for some other things, but I'm going to go ahead and use this for my Petunia. So this is larger. It is much larger than the gallon nursery container that it was in previously. So we're going to go ahead and pot this up. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and pot this Petunia up into a larger pot. So the first thing I'm going to need to do is I do need to put some soil in the bottom so that my root ball doesn't sink all the way to the bottom. When you're potting these up, I want to reiterate, do not put anything in the bottom of the container other than potting media. No sticks, no newspaper, no gravel, no clay, no aggregate, no sand. It does not need that. Those will actually inhibit the water flow through the pot and actually cause more issues for you. So make sure that you don't have those. The other thing is, make sure that you can see all the way through your pot. You don't want any trays or anything that can hold water into this pot on the bottom. So let's go ahead and start potting this up. So I do have another container here that's about the size of what I'm going to do. So I'll use this to demonstrate. I want to make sure that my root ball is off the bottom of the pot, but I have enough soil to cover over the root ball with my new potting media. So I need to make sure that I put in, on this one, probably about 4 inches of soil. And what I recommend with the petunias is that you go with a soil mix that is a peat perlite mix. In this case, I'm using Sunshine Mix number 4. With this one, I would recommend this because this is using all new, brand new material. So it's using fresh peat moss, it's using fresh perlite, it's not using any mulch or any bark. On the petunias, they are kind of sensitive to moisture or lack of moisture. So we need to make sure that we have a potting media that's going to hold that moisture in for them. And having a good solid peat mix will do that. And then the perlite provides air spaces so that the roots don't suffocate from too much water. So you want a good mix like this. In this case, Sunshine Mix number 4 with aggregate is fine. They also do have mycorrhizae in there. And that's spores from fungus that help out with your plant. So let's go ahead and work on this. So we're going to just go ahead and dump in soil there. We're going to get about 4 inches in there. Now, when you're potting things up, you can break up the clods that are in there because sometimes the peat will form a clod, and those are coming from compressed bales. But I don't want you crushing down any of the potting media. We want to just leave it as is. I'm going to give just another handful. We'll kind of do a little bit of a cone for our pot to sit on there. The next thing, when we are removing our plant from the pot, you're going to live long and prosper. You're going to place 2 hands with your fingers split underneath the stems but above the soil so that you can cradle the root ball like that. As you can see, the root system of this plant is fairly poor, so we got to be careful with that. So I'm going to make sure that I am supporting that root ball. And then I can transition it into my pot, which is not quite tall enough for what we're doing. So it looks like we need to add a little bit more. I do want it to come up a little bit more. That's about right. There's going to be just about right. We could do just a tiny bit more. Tiny bit more. Being real careful with that root ball. I can feel it's held together, but the root system itself is pretty weak, so we want to make sure that we're giving it as much support as we can. Okay, there we go. We've come up much, much higher on this. Go ahead and put our plant back in here. There we go. It's nice and high. You can see that that is sitting where that soil surface will be below the rim of the pot, and we are going to cover that with potting media. So to add the soil, I'm going to use my hand to hold back the branches, and I'm just going to put handfuls of potting media in. I'm going to bring that up to the surface of the other soil. Then I can come in and rotate, and then I'm gently restraining the plant so that it does not get in my way. Okay, there we are. Going to rotate again. Continuing to add, just handfuls there. We may have enough, we may not have enough. I think we're going to be fairly close on that. There we go. Just about right on the money. So I do want to make sure that I do have my new potting media over the surface of my old potting media, because when you do that, you make sure that you're not creating an uneven surface where one potting media might wick the moisture out from the other. All right. So the next thing we're going to do is we do want this plant to start branching better. It has been flowering for quite some time and hasn't been developing any side shoots. So we need to tell this plant that it needs to start developing side branches. So the best thing we can do for that is we can come in and we can actually cut off the apical meristem, which is your meristematic tissue, which is right at the tip of the plant. And this will tell that plant, hey, you've lost your growing center of this branch. You need to produce another one. And so it will go in and it'll activate the side branches on this plant, and it will tell them that it needs to branch out, which will make this plant bigger and fuller, which means we're probably going to cut our blossom off for a few weeks, but that is okay, because when we're done, we will have this thing back up to the way we want it. Yeah, all of these branches are coming off. I'll do a little bit more on that one. And we're just doing this for shape. So it is going to get a little shorter. I know this does seem pretty harsh for some of you that have struggled to get your plants to bloom and grow, to see someone coming in here and cutting it back. But trust me, this is good for the plant and will give us a bigger, better, fuller plant later on. Okay, so we can leave a few blossoms on there for us to enjoy. But really, I want to get this one set up so we have a lot of nice full branches. So when we take this one into the fall, we have some other things to enjoy. Okay, so there is all of our material here that we've cut off. We'll toss that to the side. And then with this, we're going to go ahead and water it with a fertilizer mix. Again, I do recommend the Jack's Classic at a rate of 1 tablespoon per gallon of water. And you're going to water that until the water fertilizer mix runs through the bottom of the pot. And then you can do that again. One of the ways to tell when it's time to water is you can actually kind of heft your pot a little bit. If it's light, it needs water. If it's heavy and has some weight to it, it does not. But I hope this gives you some ideas on some care that you can do to revitalize your petunia and make it a little bit better in the future. I hope you learned something today. Ag Teacher Thoughts.